What's up? I'm Luke,
And I'm Zach.
and we're going to talk about honors to AP or standard to AP.
For me.
More specifically, algebra to pre-calculus. So honors or on-level algebra to AP pre-calculus.
Algebra 2.
Definitely a big spike in difficulty. So I did honors algebra 2 as a sophomore, and as a junior, I went into AP pre-calculus.
Yeah, for me, as a sophomore, I was in Algebra 2A, and as a junior, I was also in AP Pre-Calculus.
I think we can both agree that algebra 2 in general was kind of a joke. It wasn't very hard. Obviously, some people are better at math than others, but for us specifically, I don't think we had a very difficult time with those classes. Do you agree?
Yeah, I agree with you.
I think that lack of difficulty definitely left us quite unprepared for the spike in AP Pre-Calculus. I personally was never much of a studier. I never had to study. I was always just able to absorb the knowledge and then get full marks on exams because there wasn't that much information to absorb and it wasn't very complex.
Yeah, for me, I honestly don't remember having like study techniques really at all, besides maybe doing the review packets. That's literally all I would do. And yeah, I feel there were so many classes, especially towards the end of the year, where all we'd be doing is just be on our phones the whole time, and that just shows that, everything was very slow paced. There were so many times where we were just doing nothing.
Now let's talk about AP Pre-Calculus because that's a perfect segue into the bullet train, basically, that hit us. And AP Pre-Calculus was a lot faster paced than Algebra 2. Would you agree?
Yeah.
I think that neither of us, nor any of our peers, saw this ramp up in speed coming. I think something that we should acknowledge, though, is that some people didn't actually struggle that much because they were able to study and they built those techniques earlier. And I think that shows a sort of disconnect between people that have quite good memories and absorption skills versus people who maybe don't have as good memories but can study and have built those habits and are definitely more disciplined. I think something very interesting to note, though, is that I actually did quite good like the first few days. I think I got an A on the first test, but as the year progressed, it got faster and faster. I think that's something that really caught me and, probably also caught you off guard as well, because I don't think the content itself was very hard. Do you agree?
I mean, towards the beginning of the year, it felt like it was just a review from Algebra 2. And I'd also like to comment that I did take a summer class to get ahead and to get into AP Pre-Cal because I needed that. But I still was very unprepared for the fast pace. And I remember, I think my first test of the year, I got a 65 for the first unit test because if I didn't know how to do something on like the review packet, even I would just be like, it's not going to be on the test. Well, guess what? It showed up and I was very unprepared and I would play games during class, like in like October of my junior year when I was in AP Pre-Calc. I would be playing like Roblox on my Chromebook on some other website while the teacher is teaching. That made me very distracted. I don't know. Like I prioritize like these instant pleasures over actually getting the content in.
Yeah, that's that discipline thing I was talking about before. And I think personally, if I had built up the study habits that I needed to, the pace wouldn't be as big of an issue. And my strength in my previous math classes was being able to absorb everything we did in the lessons very well, so I never needed to go over it again. But when I started pre-calculus, stuff got so much faster and there was more stuff for me to absorb, so I couldn't absorb it all. So then when I'd get to review day, I wouldn't know a lot of this material, and then like you said, I'd just be like, I hope this isn't on the test, and then it just would be. And the thing is, when my grades started tanking, I did start to try studying on my own because I realized I was like, this is not going to work. I need to do something about this. But because I hadn't built that method, I was quite frankly left in the dark and didn't really know what to do. So I found myself like aimlessly doing problems. Maybe I'd do 2 or 3 problems and I'd get sick of it and then decide, okay, I'm just going to watch anime or something.
Also, what kind of hurt me as well was waiting till the night before to start studying.
Yes.
Like, if I didn't pay attention, I would, like, learn everything. Like, not just, like, I have a base of how to do this problem. I mean, I might have had a base, but there were times where I just, like, learn it completely, like, at home.
Let's talk about some of the things that, in hindsight, we could have done to mitigate some of this struggle. I think the first thing is we've already talked about it, building study habits early. I think elementary school, you should be building these habits, because if you don't, then it's really going to hurt you in the future. And I think also just admitting that you need help, being able to do that, because that was something that I personally really struggled with. I was always the curve killer, and I was always, a lot like the top of my class. So I never really needed to go to tutoring or, ask my teacher for extra help. But that's something I really wish that I was able to do, because I think I guess my ego a bit got in the way there, and it took me a while to actually accept that I wouldn't be able to do this on my own. And it's something that I did do eventually was go to tutoring, and that definitely helped me, especially towards the end of the year. I ended the course with I got a 92 on the final, which is quite good.
For me, what I started doing in AP Calc was study latest maybe 3 to 4 days before the test. Like, try to absorb as much as I can in class. And there's always something that I might forget or I might not understand, and I would either go to extra help for that, or I would learn it by myself. If I would learn it by myself first, and if I couldn't get it, I'd go to my teacher, and I would study pretty much everything that we were given. Like, everything. Like, don't say, oh, this won't be on the test, because it could be very well. I mean, not everything on there's going to be on the test, but everything most likely on the test was on those packets that we were given, instructional packets, review packets, all that. So that really helped me. Like, I haven't gotten, my lowest test grade or quiz grade was an 81, and my lowest unit test was a 94.
And a key takeaway, I think, is showing work, which is quite funny, because I think most everyone thinks this is the dumbest thing. I can just do the math in my head. But I think it's actually quite valuable, because if you get a question wrong, it allows you to look back and say, what did I do wrong? How can I fix it? I think that's one of the most valuable things you can actually take away from your math class, is the ability to do that, because that's very valuable in life. And I think a problem that we deal with is that a lot of grading, and school in general, is one mistake can tank your entire grade. You forget to press turn in on an essay, and you might lose credit just because you didn't press turn in. And I think that's a sort of reinforcement to our mind, saying we can't make any mistakes. But I think the value of showing your work in math is not only can you get partial credit from that, which shows, it's okay to make mistakes as long as you know what you did wrong. Because then, again, you can go back and say, this is what I did wrong. This is what I should have done. I will make sure to do this in the future. And that's something super valuable that we can take away from our math classes. I think a lot of the stuff we did just talk about, learning from mistakes, and the process of learning, that kind of stuff. That's stuff that I personally took away from that class, which I hadn't previously taken away from other math classes because they were so easy. I was kind of just a robot. There wasn't really much learning that was done. So I think actually, although my GPA really got hurt by pre-calculus, I think it's one of the most valuable classes I've taken, because it's taught me important skills that I actually will use in the future.
Yeah, it was kind of like a wake-up call for me that I had to change. Something had to change. Imagine I went into college with those study techniques. I would have to
playing games in the middle of class.
You can't. There are. I see videos all the time of college students playing games, but the most important thing is building that discipline early on. Mm-hmm. So then, that's kind of your first instinct to do.
So I think overall, jump from Algebra 2 to pre-calculus, big spike in difficulty. I think the biggest thing to make sure of is that you have study techniques and study habits, and you've built those earlier on. I think don't play games in class.
Obvious one. Ask your teacher for help if you need it. Yeah.
Do that, and make sure that you know how you would like to learn. I think that's something that we didn't really talk about. But I think if you know how you learn, then you'll have a much easier time absorbing information. And I think if you are in a similar boat that we were in. Do what we said, get tutoring, and just keep in mind that these struggles that you have are likely going to be some of the most valuable experiences of your entire life because they will allow you to grow and learn things that you won't gain from the class itself, from the material itself. All right, that's it for this episode. We'll see you.
See ya.